Hello comic fans, here's Earl Grey, and these are the series from Ahoy Comics I'm pulling, and I want to show you them today and talk a bit about them. For me it all started with a recommendation of Sleepy Reader in one of his videos, in particular to get this series here, Edgar Allan Poe's Snifter of Terror, because I'm a bit late, hopped a bit late on the train. I only managed to get 2 and 3. It's a bit hard to get these books over here, but when you're pulling them it's no problem at all. And yeah, what are these books here about? These are of course spoofs, I guess you call them, persiflages of Edgar Allan Poe stories, or thinking them a bit further, if you will. And the first story, written by Innocenti, but it's a good one. Maybe she is more one for the short stories, I don't know, and the crazy short stories, that is. The System of Dr. Tar and Professor Feathers, and every time I read this title I have to think of Alan Parsons Project and Tales of Mystery and Imagination, one of my favorite records way back when I was a kid, and still a good record. If you haven't heard of that LP, check it out. These anthologies contain different stories, of course, anthology, and drawn by different artists. In this case here, the second one is drawn by one Russ Brown, and we have a very short cartoony approach or interpretation of Edgar Allan Poe himself appearing in the stories, like it's with very much of these stories, and always some kind of prose and extra stuff like cocktail receipts. And so it's with the issue 2 as well. And I'm still on the lookout for more of these Snifter of Terror books here. Captain Ginger, a sci-fi series with cats. I didn't get it in issues, and maybe I will get this in trade. Same with High Heaven and The Wrong Earth, which is some kind of superhero persiflage. And I think Dragonfly and Dragonfly Man, it's an excerpt of this stuff here. This is a book from Free Comic Book Day. And as far as I got, the idea is a world with bad, grim and gritty world with grim anti-heroes meeting a world more this Batman 66 happy fun lucky times superhero world, and these both worlds collide, and this is the initial idea for the story. But since I'm not the biggest superhero reader in the world, to put it mildly, it's not so much for me, and I think I still had my share of stories that put a different twist into the superhero genre. But to be honest with you, this here is the main reason to do this video. A Second Coming, issue 1. This is the variant cover by Richard Pace, who does the interiors within, and to get this out of my way, this is a pretty solid art here. I haven't liked the standard cover by Amanda Conner too much, so I went with this one. Still not the best cover in the world. Anyhow, what's important is what's within this book here, and I enjoyed the story here very much, about a douchebag of God who is a bit disappointed by his son getting crucified by humankind, and he thinks of him as a weak and wimpy character, so he sends him back to Earth so that he can be taught some lesson by this Superman guy here. It's actually Superman. He's called Sunstar, but he bears all the Superman features. Yeah, so that's basically the premise. And our Jesus here is a very nice guy, and he he hates to hate, and he's very sympathetic with the weak ones and even with the villains. He's not one who goes for the punishment, to punish people like the Sunstar character here. And yeah, God swears a lot and speaks in gangster language and so on, and maybe this is the reason that some people took offense by this book and coming out on Vertigo, so that the, Mark Russell, who is it called? Mark Russell, yeah. So Mark Russell had to, and Pace had to change the publisher to Ahoy Comics, and even here he feels the need to apologize, sort of, and to explain his story in the back matter of the book here. Yeah, the impression that someone has to, in 2019, has to explain or even apologize for this story here is a bit crazy, you know. And Vertigo, remember this little God-fearing, nice book called The Preacher? They do it in absolute editions and stuff like that, and this is blasphemy, if you want to ask me. But I totally liked it, and I think we live in a secularized world, and if you're a religious man or woman, you don't have to read The Preacher. And yeah, as I don't have to read the Bible every day, you can choose to read whatever you want, and you can choose to be offended, but don't. Yeah, I'm already talking too much about it. I think it's a bit ridiculous. So let's move on, shall we? Bronze Age Boogie. This is a fun series, a collision of the actual Bronze Age, 1975, before Christ, and before Zero, as I like to call it, and 1975, the actual comic book Bronze Age, the 70s, 1975, after Christ, after Zero. So we have this lady here from way back then with a speaking monkey who was ended up by its time machine in the times way back then, and there are Martians involved, aliens, and kung fu fighter, this Lee character here, and Amanda Dark or Linda Dark, spelled with 2 R's, so it's Linda Dark. A totally B-movie exploitation, over the topness, craziness, fun. Crazy good story, really. I love it so far. And this is Major Ursa, a backstory here, and the backstories in the Ahoy comics are almost or even better than the main stories. Major Ursa is a fantastic story about an astronaut bear, as in animal. If you can't get my pronunciation, sorry about that. The backstory is actually what kept me on #danger. And this was, to be honest with you, very quick on the chopping block for me, because I haven't liked this story too much, or couldn't get into this cartoony art in the beginning here. #danger is a cartoonily drawn series about this trio, this group of, they think of themselves as heroes, but they are more anti-heroes, with no special abilities. Besides, he's the intelligent guy, she's the muscle, and she's, whatever she is. She's the Good Citizens Club Young Leader Award. She's very manipulative and, plays the others in a more or less obvious way. And in the first issue, this concept wasn't too fun for me, despite being Yeti involved and stuff like that. But the more I read it, the more fun and the more I enjoy the story here, and the contrast between these painted covers and the cartoony insides, yeah, I dig this a lot more than I initially did it. And for those of you who search the ape in the iron mask in issue 3, there will be some kind of surprise for you. But what kept me in this on this book here is actually the back matter, the story here about this comedian Nelson, drawn by Fred Harper, written by Paul Constant. So this is a fun little, very underground story, drawn in a compelling art style. It was enough for me to say, okay, if you give me enough and these stories here in the back, which I have enjoyed as far as I've read them. These are great packages, you know. Ahoy Comics does issues like I want to read issues. I'm not the regular issue reader. Still, I buy them more in trades and hardcovers and whatnot, collected editions. But these books here are really great, and you can make the test. You can lay some books before you, close your eyes, and just by feeling these books here, the thicker outer cover and the good paper quality and the thickness of these books, would just give you more for the same money in comparison, let's say, to Marvel. Anyhow, that being said, in Second Coming, there's a lot of more or less stupid self-advertisement for their own series. There we have these sort of apology from Mark Russell that I mentioned before, but we have these ads, not necessary in my book, but now it gives me an opportunity to give you an overview at the end of my video, especially about stories that I haven't pulled and don't plan on. Steel Cage was or is just one issue with several stories, and the readers could vote for the story that they want to continue. Check out Sleepy Reader for more information. He did a video talking about this one. Planet of the Nerds, that concept and the art, as far as I've looked into it, was not my cup of tea. These two books I've talked about. The Wrong Earth is the one where the different, the happy and the dark superhero story colliding. And Captain Ginger, this is one I maybe get in trade because I was too late on this sci-fi story with cats as astronauts, basically. And this sounds silly, but it seems to be a good amount of fun. And High Heaven is forgot the premise actually, but somehow I thought maybe this is more stuff for a trade, or I was too late, to be honest with you, too late to get this in issues, so maybe, yeah. Thanks for listening and watching. Goodbye. Gerade fertig. Na? Oh, verdammt.